Well guys, I can confidently say that I will not make it into Amur with free fuel. So the free ride sadly has come to a close, but because of those principles I stated in my hard mode tips video, I managed to create enough wealth where I can rest easy knowing I will make it through and not struggle with money. While there are a lot of hard mode walkthrough videos out there showing a step-by-step mission progress, I have a little bit of a different outlook. I'm more of the mindset that players can have a very unique, successful hard mode experience. I believe that with a little bit of knowledge, planning, and foresight, all players can enjoy hard mode the way they want them to and not in a cookie cutter fashion. So without further ado, let's take a look at how good I've personally done following my own guide. Okay, as I mentioned in my intro part of the video, I did say that the free fuel is basically done and over with. However, on this map, which I'm currently on, Black Badger Lake, Wisconsin, I still do have fuel trucks deployed in this area, and I also still have 2 trucks with fuel in my garage for the next map. So I do predict I'm probably going to run out of fuel, most likely on Grainwoods River. If not, the first part when I start more. I know for sure I will not have enough free fuel to continue that. And we are going to talk about the potential earnings from each map up to my current spot, how much I've made, how much potential I could have made, and where I could have gotten a little bit more, and how I have saved some money. So let's talk about this. So first off, we're going to talk about so I'm at 50% in Wisconsin right now. I'm actually finishing up Black Badger Lake, and then I'm moving over to Grainwoods River. Like I said, I do have some fuel left, but I still know that I'm going to run out. So the free fuel is ending. So those savings coming from that part of the hard mode is going to stop. However, I do have a pretty good goose egg here to sit on, which is 1,000,000 credits. However, I'm going to talk about the potential that I have made compared to that you can make in these regions. So in Michigan, the potential that you can make is 322,700 to 381,350. Now you'll see right here the payments I received is somewhere in the middle of that at 330,000. And you ask yourself, well, why don't you have the maximum at 381? Well, that's simply because I do not do all the contest 3 times and get gold. That is something I think I lost out on a lot of money throughout all these regions. And I think I made up for it just from the whole free fuel thing and not having to pay for it along the way. So I kind of made up for it because I just knew I really don't like doing those contests 3 times over. It's not really something I find fun. So if you're like me, I still think you can have a good hard mode experience here. Let's move on. Okay, so Alaska, you can earn 312,500 to 367,400. And as you can see, I'm literally right above the minimum here at 314. The minimum was 312, so I actually made pretty much the minimum amount that you could make in Alaska because I just didn't do those contests over and over to completion. Those ones were pretty crazy going up in those mountains and such like that. At the time, I didn't jump ahead and grab any other vehicles that can do those really quick, so I resorted to using the Lodestar, which I purchased, and we'll talk about that later. So yeah, I didn't earn as much as I probably could, but I made up for it with fuel. Okay, so Taymyr, you can make a little bit more than both the prior regions. It's at 351,500 to 469,300, and as you can see, I actually made a little bit above the minimum, which is 380. I did try to get gold on all those contests. I believe I did get gold on those. There might be a couple of these contests throughout all these regions that I did do either 3 times or 2 times or just once. It was kind of pending on how hard they were and how easy I could get back to them and restart them, just kind of like, I guess, to make things quick, I guess you'd say. So let's move on here. Kola Peninsula, as you can see, everything is 100%. I finished them all. So as soon as you finish a contest, contract, task, that will get you the 100%. I just did not complete those multiple times. Okay, so for Kola Peninsula, the max you can get is 302, 400, to 331, to 331, to 332, 550. Sorry. So as you can see, I actually scored lower, and I'm not really sure why. I only have 300,000 here, opposed to the minimum being 302. I believe this is probably because I didn't do the contest more than once. Because if you do the contest more than once and get gold multiple times, it is a significant boost of money. And I'm not going to give you guys the numbers for that, but just know that if you do those contests more than once, get gold, silver, bronze, whatever, it is a really big boost of money, and you can actually see that from the discrepancy from my gameplay to the potential that I've been showing you here. So next is the Yukon potential money. So the Yukon actually is a slight increase in funds here because these contracts are huge. They pay out very well, but however, it takes a lot of time to complete. These missions contests give you 488,900 to 542,000. Now, as you can see, I'm actually up near the max part of this, and this is because those races in the center of the map in the flooded foothills, they were pretty easy just to do 3 times, because you would do the laps, get done, and then you could legitimately just restart them and then just do it again. So I actually did those, I believe, and got gold on 3 tries. I might have messed up one of them and gotten bronze or silver, but I'm pretty sure I completed those three times. But as you can see, just by completing those 2 on one map, it almost boosted me to the max potential. So if I would have done them all to max, I would have gotten close to that 542,000 there, but I did not. So it's whatever. And then next we have Wisconsin potential money. It's actually increased as well. For 2 maps, it's 474,500 up to 551,600. And as you can see, I am halfway through right now, and I'm at 250,750, and that puts me right around the 500,000 range, a little bit above. So I'm going to score around middle, maybe to the upper third of the potential money in this region. Now, currently overall, the total payments that I have received is over 2 million. And as you can see, my personal funds are 1,028,000 here. So your next question is, well, Nate, why so little, man? Like, why do you only have 1 million credits, but you've been paid out 2 million? Well, as you can see, if you follow my hard mode, I did mention that I have bought a lot of things just because I've been saving so much money with having free fuel and taking so much time with that. I've made up with efficiency. Some vehicles I have purchased are the Ford CLT 9000. I purchased that in Michigan, and the reason I did purchase that because, well, I needed vehicles to transport fuel over to Alaska, because Michigan has so much fuel and so does Alaska. So I didn't have enough vehicles to just bring all that fuel over in one go. So I bought the CLT. It was very cheap. I don't believe it was that much money as well. So I used that to bring all that fuel over to Alaska, store it, and then use that fuel into Alaska. I also bought the Lodestar 1700, the International Lodestar 1700, in Alaska as soon as I got its raised upgrade. And the reason I did this because I'm playing this in a chronological order. So doing those contests, which are I can actually go in here and show you these contests where you're climbing these mountains and going through here. Let's see, I don't know if it can actually it won't show me where they are. I'd have to actually go here, but you're climbing all up through these mountains, and the scouts that you have, I don't think they're better suited to do these. I think the Lodestar is probably the best option, unless you're going to jump to different regions, play outside of the chronological order, and grab other scouts. Like, I guarantee the Yar could do just as good as a job, if not better. The Tatran 420 could, the Ford F750 and you know, there might be a couple other vehicles, but that was here. The raised upgrade was in Mountain River. So as soon as I got that, I came back over here and I did these contests with that. I only did them once. So that was the reason why I bought the Lodestar. It's a very powerful scout. It's legitimately one of my favorites. Next, let me go back to my screen here. Let's go back to the garage. What am I doing? Here we go. Okay. Now, the next vehicle I did buy was the Pacific P12. And this was a questionable purchase by a lot of people who are watching because, well, the P12 is kind of power starved, to say the least. It has a pretty strong engine. It's 210,000 torque rating, but however, it is a very, very heavy vehicle, as we know. Yet it is a very good logging vehicle because it can use the long log attachment, and it also can use the logging crane in conjunction. So this was something that instead of me getting another separate vehicle to do logging and actually manually load logs into cradles and then have, you know, multiple vehicles, I could actually do it with two. And I just felt it was a good pick. It's a really good pick because I could also use it for a support vehicle with fuel. Also, I could use it for a crane truck. It was something that I used a lot on my main playthrough, and I felt that it was a good purchase. And I actually used it up until the Yukon, actually. And I'll actually show you where I used it to. And then I actually bought a different vehicle that I'll talk about here in a second. I used it all through the flooded foothills with the long log and the crane setup, and I would crane those logs into a sideboard bed, and you know, that sideboard bed truck that was pulling those would follow me to that location, and then there would be multiple cradles, you know, whether it was medium cradles or the long log cradle that was on the P12, that I could just load them into their locations, into those cradles, pack them, turn them in. That was just how I did it, instead of doing the back and forth, you know, running back to all these stations and then going, you know, to the separate locations. Now, the next vehicle I did buy is going to be the Azov 64131, and I also bought the Cat CT681, and another questionable purchase was the CT681. However, the CT681 has a massive engine for how small it is. Has the same torque as the Azov 64131 at 210,000 as well. So it has a huge power to weight overhead, and also it's a very efficient engine. I like toggling off all-wheel drive, which is mentioned in the overall final tips that we'll talk about later. But that is something I really enjoy playing with. It has done really well throughout these regions. I actually just purchased it probably in the latter part of this hard mode, and I really am only at Wisconsin because, you know, I'm doing other content creation. I'm playing co-op with max power. I'm doing life, working a full-time job, all those other things. So I don't spend a ton of time on my hard mode, even though I have started it quite a while ago, but I'm slowly chipping away at it. But I wanted to show you guys this stuff because I am taking all these principles and I am putting them into practice, and I'm showing you that the product of it right here. So the next, the last vehicle I did purchase was the Azov 73210, and the reason I did buy this vehicle was I believe the Yukon is one of the hardest regions for logging, and I think Big Salmon Peak actually is probably one of the worst. And there's actually a logging mission where you have to, I believe it's come up, is it here? I'm gonna find this right here. Here it is. There's a long log mission that you come up here and drop a set of long logs off. Well, if you come up this road and go down here, you can see that this slopes very, very drastically downward. Okay, so the only way to cross this is you could go this way, have a very stable truck, you know, a Cat 745C, even the Airmatsu Forester could do this and cross this gap and be okay. Other logging trucks, whenever you put logs on them, they become vertically unstable because you're adding logs in a vertical fashion upward, so it's away from their center of gravity. Kind of standard issue, right? But anyways, I have done that mission with this vehicle. You can either go up this way and then around, then come this way. That's probably how I would go. You might get caught here. You might have to have a support truck pull you through. I've actually went up here and went through this woods, came down, and had a catastrophic tipping. Had to get my logs back on, turn it in, etc. But anyways, the Yukon, these logging missions, they're going up into these hills. They're icy. There's plenty of loads. It's been one of the harder places to do logging in my experience. So far, it has been. There are other parts that are really hard. I think here in Black Badger Lake, getting up to the weather station up here can be pretty darn hard, especially if you're going up here. I do not recommend that. I actually have a stream that I uploaded where I cut through this forest right here and went right through and cut through it like butter. There's other places you can go. But just for the simple fact that the Azov 73210 can use the long log crane or the long log attachment with the log crane, I felt it was a super good candidate to replace the P12 in that role. So the P12 is going to be more of a support role now, and maybe even a crane truck, which I think it's one of the better crane trucks in the game. Another reason why my income is so little compared to what I've been paid out, so 2 million paid out, I have a million in my account right now, is because, well, I'm buying trailers, I'm repairing vehicles, I'm buying upgrades, and then everything else that comes with this game. Deploying vehicles costs money, redeploying them, all those things. I have not recovered. I do load my own cargo. I do not pay for it to load in, so I'm not losing that money there. So, and also, like I said before when I was talking about the potential earnings, I'm not doing all the contests 3 times to completion. So I have lost out on money with those things. But honestly, I think for where I'm at right now, to practice what I've preached, what I said in my hard mode tips video, those principles I talked about, I put those into practice to show you guys that this does work. You can make a ton of money and put yourself so far ahead that you can make purchases of all these vehicles I talked about or different vehicles and have your own unique experience where you can not be, you can not have issues with money and be financially free in this game, to just kind of relax, play the game. And that's just something that I've done. So those general tips that I talked about in that video, which the link will be in the description of this, and I'll say these tips one more time. It's mission trailers first, so you want to take those down to 10% before you turn in. Number 2 is going to be siphon fuel from rescue missions. There are times you can siphon fuel from vehicles. There might be some times you can't. Those times are few and far between, but in general, if you're bringing a truck back and you can siphon it, and that'll give you some free fuel right there. And then number 3 is just free fuel. There's going to be tankers out on the maps, and actually the best maps to jumpstart your hard mode is going to be Michigan and Alaska. You have so much fuel in these areas. I'm not actually going to dive in here and show you each location these are at, but I can tell you that there is an abundance of fuel that can propel you through these 3 maps. And I think if you can get through these base 3 maps in the game without having to pay for any fuel, I think you're very, very much ahead of most people, because you just don't have to pay for that, and you can put those funds in other places like trucks, upgrades, trailers, whatever you want to do with it, right? Okay, so at number 4, switching all-wheel drive off. I mentioned this with the Cat CT681. I love doing this. I'll toggle off all-wheel drive and then fire my diff lock if I'm not having trouble in some areas, because diff lock is really just strong with your back tires in a lot of situations. But there's just sometimes you can't get away with turning off all-wheel drive, and that's why I bought the CT681, because it has so much power to weight overhead. It is very efficient on fuel. It's not as efficient as the 64131, which is why I bought the 64131, because it's one of the most efficient vehicles in the game. So that's definitely why I bought it. I wanted to be very efficient because I knew I wasn't going to do those contracts to full completion. Next is called mission chaining. Now this is just chaining missions together. And this is something, if you watch me stream, I spend so much time on the map view, sitting like this, scrolling through all these things, trying to figure out my logistics to set these up, where I'm going to place my support vehicles, my fuel trucks, what mission I'm doing next, what mission I can do going there, what mission can I pick up from there, just trying to maximize my efficiency so I'm not burning too much fuel, wasting time. So time is money, and burning fuel is definitely wasting money, so I don't want to do that. Next, at number 6 is going to be top off your fuel as much as possible, and this is something I do all the time. Even if I'm making a run, say from this spot right here down to this logging station with a 64131, it's probably not going to burn much fuel at all. I mean, going up these hills, yeah, you might stress your engine, you'll see those values come up. That's pretty much normal, but in general, you're not going to use that much fuel. But even if I was at half a tank, I'm still going to fill that thing up, because if I get here and something happens and I have to do a recovery or do something crazy to get my cargo back on, that's time, that's burning fuel. You have to have your truck on to do that. Or if something happens, pick up a different mission, I still have the fuel reserve to do that next mission. So always top off your tank. Next is just going to be drive safely. And that's something I do a lot on hard mode. I think on normal mode, I more or less have a lead foot, because I know that if I dump any cargo, I can just recover to the garage. In hard mode, I do not recover. I actually bring support vehicles out because I don't want to pay money for recoveries. I'll just bring them out and tip the vehicle upright, and yeah, just get everything going. So when you drive safe, it negates all that, because you're taking resources out of some area, and you're using money for that as well. And I won't kind of press that anymore. And then lastly, only buy essential vehicles. Now, the vehicles I purchased, you can probably make an argument that, hey, Nate, they're not really essential. And I would say generally, I agree with you. The 681, the CT681, I did not need to purchase that vehicle. I have workhorse vehicles that I can use, which is the 64131. It's very efficient, and I could just use that as my my workhorse. But the thing is, like, I always want to have vehicles to support other things. And then the CT681, it was just something I wanted to switch it up a little bit. Driving one truck to do all your missions, all your carrying cargo missions, and you have your logging vehicles that are different vehicles, right? But for the most part, your hauling missions, I just wanted a little bit of variety, because usually in normal mode, you could always go back to the garage, swap things out, and then deploy it. So you're always doing something different. But in hard mode, you have a couple workhorse trucks that you kind of lean on, right? And then you have your other vehicles that are kind of support vehicles. So I just wanted to get a little bit of variation there. And I also used the P512 PF there to use for some more variation, just to mix things up. Even though the P512 isn't that efficient, I still like using it. So I did throw that in there just to kind of keep the fun up and the challenge a little bit. But yeah, guys, that is my video on these hard mode tips and how far I've come so far being in Wisconsin here. And as you can see, I believe that if you guys do follow those tips and try to save fuel and bank that stuff up, and even do all your contests if you would like to, if that's what you like to do it. I really think you're gonna be in a good place to propel yourself farther into the game. This is phase 3 here. I think I'm gonna be set going into a more, especially with 1,000,000 credits. I'm not gonna be worried too much about fuel. I'm pretty efficient, and I'll actually I'll be pretty good, because also contracts, contests, and also tasks pay out more and there's, I think, over 100 of them. So I'm not too worried. I don't think you should be either if you're going to follow this. So I wanted to practice what I preach and put into practice what I've said to you guys and show you that it does work out. And I believe it can work for you, and you'll be able to basically have a totally unique experience and just overall have fun with the game. So anyways, guys, thank you guys for sticking around, watching this video. I hope this helped you out. Please like and subscribe and share the video as well. And as always, until next time, God bless and stay upright.